Hey, Jennifer, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad. Hopefully your internet is running well this week. Fingers crossed.
It's like great weather, so hopefully it is. Okay. Which actually is good news. They're running DSL line. It's supposed to fiber optic. It's supposed to be here in a month. So
wow, that's a big upgrade for you.
Huge upgrade. It's like a relief.
Just gonna check. Let's see. You don't happen to have, I think we had a slide deck at one point for this. You don't happen to have a copy of it, do you?
Don't think I have a copy of it. Let me see.
Client training, bookkeeping. That's probably not the right one. That was I just found the presentation for the one we needed last week. I guess I don't think we ever, maybe we never did a PowerPoint because we just, well, basically it's just actually going through QuickBooks itself. I mean, I've got some QuickBooks training sessions, but they're ones I did for other organizations, not for us.
I thought you had one last time, but I don't.
I thought I did too, and I just can't seem to find it.
I'm going to look in the Teams because maybe Rachel sent it in there.
I have Grow with QBO. I don't think that's one of ours. No, that's not a.
Yeah, there's one in the Teams.
Is there?
Let me see if I can message you.
The one Rachel sent us.
Yeah.
I see the YouTube video. I see the Zoom link. I don't see it.
I just think, it's like a super long link and I think it will link straight to it.
QuickBooks Online 101. Okay. Yeah, this is one I did for another one. I did have this one, but maybe this is what I used. This is perfect. Whatever it is, I'm going to use it. Apparently, did she make it or?
I don't know, but this is what, this is the one we used last time when I had so many issues.
Yeah. Okay. How do I actually download it though? I can see it. Oh, there we are. Okay, looks like we're probably at about time, so this is perfect. Here's my Zoom. Hi, everybody. I can see a couple of you have logged on. I'm just running a few minutes behind. We'll be kicking off very shortly. Let me pop up my screen here. Okay, while I'm doing that, I'm going to try and go live over here. So bear with me 1 second and then we'll kick off. Almost there, I swear. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. Come on. And this problem earlier, Facebook doesn't want to let me go live, so I will do it over here. In Firefox. Fingers crossed. Seems to be working over there. Okay, awesome. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. Let me close down that. Welcome to our session on QuickBooks Online 101, leveraging QuickBooks Online for small business success. As you are probably aware, we are CPA4IT, which is Chartered Professional Accountants for Information Technologists. We do our best to help small businesses succeed. We have been specializing in small businesses and independent professionals since 1984. And we are one of the very few ISO 9001 registered firms. We're very active on social. You can connect with us on Twitter at CPA4IT_CA, on Instagram at CPA4IT, and on Facebook at facebook.com/CPA4IT, where we're airing this live now. And we've also got a new Facebook group, which is facebook.com/the Self-Employed Support Network. If you haven't already joined, I encourage you to join us there. We can keep the conversation going after the session today and see how we might be able to help you above and beyond that. Let's start with a quick overview of what QuickBooks Online is. So QuickBooks Online, as you guys know, is a general ledger debit and credit software to help you prepare your books so that we can file your tax returns. But it brings with it a whole slew of benefits, including improving your cash flow by helping you to access the ability to do invoicing and automatic payments. It helps you reduce workarounds and the amount of errors that we often have to deal with as accountants in correcting your files. We can hopefully get the work done correctly the first time. And it also helps you to make sure that you're completing your work with confidence and knowing that it's accurate, which is really essential if you're trying to do any sort of projecting for things like director's advances and what you might need to take out of the corporation as salary, as well as all these issues that we've been having around COVID for figuring out whether you're going to qualify for, the debt repayment reduction on CEBA, or whether you're qualifying for wage subsidies. All these, you can get access to that information in real time by leveraging the power of QuickBooks Online. I'm going to try and, excuse me, sorry about that, guys. I'm going to try and skip through this overview very quickly because I want to get to the meat, which is where we're going to actually get into QuickBooks Online and show you how to do your bookkeeping. So I could sit here and go over all these different amazing features, including income and expenses, invoicing and payments, reporting, how it's going to make your organization easier, help you save time and keep more of what you earned. Lots and lots of benefits of QuickBooks Online, but I really want to get to how we actually use the tool to reduce the amount of time and money that you spend in regards to your accounting and bookkeeping. If you do need more help beyond this session, there's a number of places that you can get that help. There's QuickBooks Online tips and tricks on their website, quickbooks.com and quickbooks.ca. We also have a getting started in QuickBooks Online program that you can do with us. And then there's also different videos that we send in sort of a drip marketing if you'd be interested in joining that, or you may already be on it, to teach you how to do things like connect your bank accounts, process your first expense, et cetera, et cetera. So for all that great information and more, visit cpa4it.ca/QuickBooks. Now, one of the last things I do want to mention before we sort of kick it over to Jennifer is that if you're not already on QuickBooks Online and you're thinking about moving over, we do have pretty much the best pricing you're going to get in the industry. We are a QuickBooks Elite Pro Advisor, which means we get, that's the highest status that you can have as a Pro Advisor with Intuit. So we get some really good wholesale pricing discounts that we transfer over to our clients. It's better than even the offers that they'll make direct to you on even their Black Friday deals. You might see a Black Friday deal that says something like 70% off, but if you read the fine print, you're going to find that it's usually for 3 months. Whereas our 60% off discount will be 60% off their retail pricing as long as you are a client with us. So amazing value and worth having a look at. Again, as I mentioned, we are active on Facebook. So it's facebook.com. I apologize. I think I said facebook.com/the Self-Employed Network. It's facebook.com/groups/the Self-Employed Network. Now, I do also want to mention, if you have questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to ask them as we go. You can use either the chat or the Q&A. We would prefer the questions to come into the Q&A. Those will take priority. If we see those will jog our attention right away. And then I will be looking to the chat. So sometimes things in chat get overlooked. But the Q&A, we will never leave without answering those questions in the Q&A unless you post it, with like 10 seconds to go. I also want to mention that if any of you want to actually ask us a question using your voice, you can raise your hand and we'll open up your mic so that you can chat with us. Now with us to walk you through the power of QuickBooks Online and all the benefits that it can bring is our resident QuickBooks Online expert, Jennifer Castro. Jennifer, thank you for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Excellent. So I gather we're gonna go through some of the basics of QuickBooks, and this is really a QBO 101 for beginners, correct?
That's correct. So this is definitely geared to people that are just getting started with QuickBooks Online. Although if you already have a QuickBooks Online account and possibly you're not been sure how to use the tool, you may get some valuable insights into maybe how to go back and kind of get things set up to accurately reflect your bookkeeping.
Awesome. So should we kick off then?
Yeah, that'd be great. So let me share my screen here because I have our demo account pulled up. Okay, let's see. Okay, so you should be able to see our QuickBooks Online account that we have set up to show you today. So I really just want to go through the basics, starting with the accounts and settings and how you should have those set up, because that's like the number one thing that you should, you always want to start off on the right foot, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the things that happens when you purchase QuickBooks Online account through us is we're going to go through a lot of these accounts and settings for you, and we're already going to have the account optimized for how it should be set up. However, I'll just run through them in case you already have a QuickBooks Online account that you're wondering what you should do. So the first time you log into QuickBooks Online, you're going to see the dashboard right here. And this is kind of the home, and it's just a quick overview of everything that's going on in your QuickBooks Online account. And so one of the first things that you want to do is go to this menu over here. QuickBooks Online refers to this menu as the gear menu. I'll refer to that as well in the materials that we put out to help you with QuickBooks Online. So this is the gear menu over here on the right-hand side. And this menu is all of your accounts and settings, and you'll see that there's essentially 4 different sections. The one that I want to draw your attention to right now is the accounts and settings under your company. So it's going to pull up the accounts and settings, and we're going to pray that it doesn't move too slowly here. I get impatient quickly. So the company is pretty basic. You can edit the pencil. You can use the pencil icon wherever you see that to edit any of these fields. You can add your logo, and your logo will show up on your company invoices that you issue and throughout the QuickBooks Online account. The next one is sales. There's not really a whole lot to modify right there, but you're more than welcome to browse through and see any of the accounts and settings that you may want to change. I usually just leave those as the default, the same with expenses. You can also run through the payments. The payments you can get set up to be paid directly through QuickBooks. What will happen is when you invoice in QuickBooks Online, your customers receive a payment link, and they'll be able to pay you directly. So you can look through that. It's pretty competitive rates compared to all of the other payment processors out there. The settings that you really want to focus on are the advanced settings over here. One of the big ones is making sure that you're setting the first month of your fiscal year end. And if you're not sure what that is, if you're a client of ours, reach out to one of your account managers and double check on that. Let's see here. So the first month of, let's see if I can hide this. Where'd that go? So you want to change that depending on what it is. And this is the first month. So if you have a March 31st year end, you would change the first month to April. And then you hit save.
Now, you want to make I'm sorry to interrupt, Jennifer, but I just thought I'd mention for anyone who's a brand new client, you may not have chosen your year end yet. You may have an incorporation date, which your year end is typically near that, but it's not locked in until you file your first year end with CRA, your first corporate tax return. What I would recommend is if you don't know what your year end is, reach out to your account manager and check with them as to what is the best year end date for you to choose, because there are pros and cons of choosing different year end dates. So I'll just leave that out there. But of course, as Jennifer's right, once you know what your year end date is, you really want to come in here, and it is really quite critical that you choose your first month of your fiscal year, because all your reporting is going to change if you have the wrong month set as the first month of your fiscal year.
Yeah, and it's really for the reporting basis, like when you run reports and you don't want to be looking at the wrong data or the wrong time frame. And so the next thing that you want to do is on this chart of accounts is this will be automatically off by default. We turn it on. We use numbers on our chart of accounts, and I'll dive into that in just a moment, like what the chart of accounts is. It's basically just your account categories where you're placing things either on the profit and loss report or the balance sheet report. And so then I select show counter numbers and save. And so those are really the two critical settings right there, the enable account numbers and the fiscal year end. The other one that I like to do is the date format. So by default, QuickBooks Online has date, month, year. Depending on how you like to look at it, if you like to look at it month, day, year, you can change that right here. I like to point that out because now I'm so used to the day, month, year format that's what I use, but a lot of people like a different date format. So, and then you can just save that. So those are the key settings. It's really simple, right? It's like two settings that really are the key ones. Once that's done, you just save and go out of here.
Now, I guess there is one more setting that's pretty important that's not in that settings there, which I'm sure you're going to cover, Jennifer, is setting up the tax.
Yes, I was going to jump to that one next. Yes. So that, yes, the tax, collecting the HST, tracking your GST and HST is not in the accounts and settings, which maybe you would be potentially looking for in that section. So the second menu that we have over here is on the left-hand side. And you'll have essentially all of these different centers for the different types of transactions that you're going to deal with in QuickBooks Online. And so to set up the taxes, the taxes are not set up by default in QuickBooks Online. You can actually start entering data without having the tax center turned on. And you really don't want to do that. So just come over.
Big no-no, because it's going to take you a lot of work to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also really important to know which method of HST you are using. Because if you use the long method when you're supposed to be on the quick, or you use the quick method when you're supposed to be on the long, it might mean having to go back and manually correct a bunch of entries, which can be time consuming and painful. I might just take one quick second to explain the difference between the long and the quick. Most of our clients, if we incorporated you, we're going to set you up on the quick method, which is the best method for service-based businesses in 9 out of 10 situations. There are, or maybe 8 out of 10, there's about 2 situations where the quick method is better. If you have a US client or you have really low revenue, the long method might be better. If you're not sure which method you're on, again, reach out and contact your account manager, ask them quickly, and they'll let you know. It's also can be checked on your CRA site. If you did your incorporation yourself, or you were working with another accountant before you worked with us, your default method is the long method. And the long method basically means you have to track the GST on all of your expenses. And Jennifer is also going to show us, after she shows us how to set up the tax, how to set up a default classification for each of our expenses. Because if you are using the quick method, you do track GST, HST on sales as well as fixed assets, but not on your operating expenses. I sort of interrupt, Jennifer, but I think that's a critical one I just wanted to touch base on.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, and QuickBooks doesn't like give you a warning, hey, tax center is not turned on, you are not tracking tax. So just make sure that you pop over here and check that it's on. If it's not on, so in this account, it is on. If it's not on, it will actually just put a welcome screen and it will say, hey, let's set up sales tax. And you'll just follow the green buttons to set it up. And you'll set it up by the province that you're in. So say, okay, I'm in Ontario, and you'll set it up for Ontario. If you deal with transactions in multiple provinces, you can come over here to manage sales tax once you do have it set up. And you can add tax, and you can start tracking in different provinces as well. Let's say done. And so if it looks like this, your tax center is set up. If it's not, walk through the settings. One thing that I like to do now, especially if you're on the long method, which means that you're tracking your input tax credits, is come into your tax center, come to manage sales tax, and set up a custom HST rate for your meals and entertainment, which is going to be half of 13% at 6.5%. And so what you would do is you just come in here, add custom rate, and you add your name. and you say, I paid this on purchases, and then you put the rate right here, and it goes on the input tax credit line.
That's a great tip. Huge time saver.
Yeah, it's a huge time saver to have that in there. So that's the tax center. And then what you're going to want to do is come over here to your chart of accounts. And I kind of skipped over this time. Normally in a lot of these webinars, I'll go into detail about how to import the chart of accounts. I'm not going to do that today out of the constraints of time. If you purchase the QuickBooks Online account through us, the chart of accounts is already set up, so you don't have to worry about it. If you purchase your own QuickBooks Online account, in your client resources, we have free resources. You can come over here to bookkeeping tools and guides. And we have the chart of accounts. You download it and you can quickly import it from right here. So if you want to be aligned with the chart of accounts that we use. But to set up the, what Andrew was referring to set up the tax based on whether you're quick method or long method, what you could come over here to the chart of accounts and do is actually just set up the default tax that's going to be on each one of these accounts. And so if you're quick method, I just do it like this. I just bulk select all of them, set default tax code, set it all to out of scope. And then I come back and pick the couple of accounts like the income accounts and the asset accounts that you do want to track the HST on. And we'll set those up as default to HST.
Yeah, because there's a lot fewer ones that you actually track HST on the quick method. And there's a lot of transactions where you won't, or a lot of
Exactly. And if you're the long method, I kind of do the opposite. There's a lot less accounts that you're not going to track tax on, like bank charges are, HST exempt. So those accounts, then I'll come back and I'll just modify those individual accounts. So then I would just come down to my income accounts down here, right here, and I would select those. And then your fixed assets. So fixed assets are items that are going to be depreciated in your corporation over a period of time. And those are usually purchases, Andrew can correct me if I'm wrong, but they're usually purchases over $400 relating to computer hardware, office furniture, or office equipment.
Yeah, and we, that threshold is not necessarily locked in stone. It's the guideline that we use. But generally speaking, if you're spending more than $400 on some office supplies or like a computer equipment, anything like that, office chairs, office furniture, then we're going to amortize those. So the one thing is they got to be over $400 and they've got to have a lifetime value that goes beyond the current fiscal year. In that case, we do then use that threshold and put them under an asset. You don't need to worry about amortizing them or capitalizing them. We will do that. Your accounting team will do that at the end of the year. There are specific amounts that we have to amortize it for. So we will do that for you. And then we will give you an adjusting entry as part of your year-end package to put in your QuickBooks Online that either you can post yourself or if you'd like, we can have our team go ahead and put those entries in for you.
Yeah, and if you're not sure whether something should be included as an asset or just an expense of the company, again, you can always reach out to us and we're happy to clarify those transactions for you. So that's the chart of accounts. And so once it's all set up, this is set up, it's ready to go. There's not a whole lot that you have to do. You can always customize the chart of accounts. If you're not a service business, you might need it a little bit different. Ours is definitely optimized for service business, and I would leave it as it is. So the next part of QuickBooks Online, and really I would say the heart of the software, is the banking center over here. And so once you have this accounts and settings, the chart of accounts set up, the taxes set up, you're going to come over here to your the banking center, and you're going to go ahead and connect your accounts. Again, the first time that you connect your accounts, it's going to have like a welcome screen, and it's going to say, let's connect accounts, and it's going to walk you through linking your bank account.
And again, sorry to interrupt here, Jennifer.
No, go ahead.
This is, linking your bank statements and your credit cards. This is like as Jennifer says, the heart of QBO. It's the game changer that is going to really reduce the amount of data entry, typing that you're going to do, as well as the amount of automation that we can leverage with QBO. Now, for those of you who do not want to connect your bank account, you can go to your bank, download a CSV, and manually import that. It just means that you'll have to do that each month to upload a file. and you'll have to make sure that, you're not having overlaps. The advantage of the sync is it's going to go and fetch that for you every single day, actually, to see if there's any updates. And it will make sure that there's no overlaps or duplicates, or at least it will do its best. It's not always perfect. The one problem that does sometimes happen with linking your debit card or your credit card is because of multi-factor authentication, and because the banks aren't actually providing an open API for QuickBooks to go and directly connect to their database, it can sometimes break. And therefore you'll have to come back in and re-authenticate, put in your user ID and password, and whatever your second factor authentication is, whether that's your, confirm the text number that they send to your cell phone, whatever the case might be. But you'll have to do that sometimes. So you want to make sure that you're coming into QuickBooks on a regular basis to make sure your bank feeds are working. My recommendation is to just come and look at this once a month, at the very least once a quarter. If you're coming in once a month, you'll find that you don't have to spend a ton of time. Jennifer's going to be able to show you some amazing tips and tricks on how you can go through literally, in this case, we're going to go through 53 transactions very quickly. But you could even have hundreds of transactions, and especially if you're going to the same restaurants, the same stores over and over again, you're going to be able to leverage the power of QuickBooks automation and artificial intelligence to save you countless hours in, drudgery and bookkeeping. So Jennifer's going to show you exactly how to do that. So without further ado, sorry, I'll turn it back to you, Jennifer.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I do have some clients that are sometimes worried about security, and that's what Andrew was pointing to. But I do highly recommend keeping them connected. It just makes it so much easier to come in here and process the transactions. So once you have your accounts connected, and you need to go through and make sure and connect all of your corporate checkings and savings accounts and credit cards. Once you have those accounts connected, it's going to show up right here, and it creates what we call a bank feed. So you'll hear us refer to that. When we're talking to you about QuickBooks Online, we say the bank feed, and this is what we're referring to, because essentially what it is it's pulling in a feed of all of your transactions that are happening in your online banking. And so it looks very similar to if you sign into your online banking, and the online banking shows you a record of all of your transactions. That's exactly what QuickBooks Online is essentially scraping and pulling in. And so they're going to have the date of the transaction, the description, the amount spent, and the amount received over here. So let me just sort that by date. So we're gonna come back to the bank feed in just a moment. What I do want to touch on, and I want to make sure and have time to get this in, is all of most of what you do in QuickBooks Online is going to be done right here in this banking center. One of the things that you may want to do in QuickBooks Online that would be outside of the banking center is invoice your customers or your clients. And that is not going to be done in here. So if you want to invoice your customers or your clients, what you're going to come over, there's a third menu. So there's 3 menus in QuickBooks Online. And this is called like the quick grade, or I guess now it's the new menu, because it just says a plus button and a new. You're going to come over here and you're going to create your invoices for your customers right here. And the advantage of creating the invoices within QuickBooks Online versus trying to do it in Excel or a Word document. Let's see, I'm just going to go through that. Is that this will automatically, the invoices will reconcile with the deposits coming into your bank account. And you're able to
make recurring invoices as well. So if
yes.
you're doing the same invoice every single month to your client, you can make that recurring and it will come up, and it's very easy. You can also email them direct to your customer. If you're not working through an agency and you're going direct to the client, you can also add in payment options so people can pay you by credit card, so you get paid faster. So lots of perks and benefits to using the invoicing tool.
Yeah, and there's a full audit log. So it's really cool because when you email it to your client through QuickBooks Online, you'll see immediately if they've viewed it, which if you've ever had trouble collecting payment on an invoice and people say, I didn't get it, you can say, well, no, I saw you got it at 5:55 on Monday evening and you received it and you read it and you opened it. So that's a really helpful thing to have. So yeah, the invoicing is super simple. Again, QuickBooks Online really goes out of the way to try to make this as easy for you to use. And so you would enter your customer. You can add these things on the fly, like as you're entering it. So you can add your new customer, set them up. In this case, I have this. You would enter their email address, products and services. So you can create as many products and services that are necessary for your contracts. So the typical one that I see is contract hours. Again, you can add new ones on the fly. It's very simple. You just walk through it and you add it. Once these are set up, and they can be set up with custom rates so that when you enter contract hours, it comes up immediately, say with your rate for the hour. And you can enter your description, how many hours it was, and then you can save and send it. Some of my clients, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you can also attach documents. Like if you want to attach, what's common is people might want to attach their timesheet or their hours or any other sort of supporting a document. You can attach those here.
Yes, you can just drag and drop them right to this section right here. You can also come over here, right here, there's another gear menu. Whenever you see a gear menu in QuickBooks Online, that's where there's going to be additional settings for you to turn on or off. And you can come over to the settings and you can actually put a date column in there as well for the service date. And that's a typical one that I see a lot because you might want to be able to write out, every date that you worked. So that's a great one to turn on. And then what Andrew was touching on is that you can make this reoccurring. So say you do one invoice, you can go right here, just click on make reoccurring, name your template, and you can schedule it where it'll automatically create it. You can even have it automatically sent out, or you can have a reminder, or you just have it unscheduled. If you have it unscheduled, it just creates like essentially a template. And I'll show you in a moment where you can find that template to use. So I'm just going to save the template. I guess I already have one. Name that. Save it. So that's my invoice template saved. To find it again, I'm going to come to this menu, lists, reoccurring transactions, and here's a list of templates, and then I can just say use. And it's essentially created a new invoice, but all of my fields are already filled out, so I can just edit. Maybe I worked 5 hours instead of 1 hour. So, and then save and send. Once your invoices are created, you can come over and manage them and view them over here in the sales center. There's all kinds of great dashboards in here. And you'll see your invoices right here. You'll see how long they're overdue. Another list of invoices, your list of customers, and your list of products and services. So once your invoices are created, when you're coming in to do the banking, so that now we're going to jump back to the banking center and kind of managing your transactions. Over here is where you can receive payment for your invoices. So let me see. I think I probably from last time I was in here.
And while Jennifer's looking at that, I'm going to give you guys another really important tip, which is get in the habit of using one debit card and one corporate credit card for your business expenses. You can technically come in here and link in all your 15 different credit cards that you have, but that's going to create an unwieldy mess for you to deal with. So you want to get in the habit of having a personal credit card and a corporate credit card, and do your best to not intermingle them. There are ways to handle when you intermingle a transaction. You can categorize an expense that's on a corporate credit card as what we call a director's advance or a non-deductible expense. And we have a couple of categories for those to help you track those. But your personal credit cards, you generally speaking don't want to link those in here because that's going to create a lot more work for you to do without a huge amount of value.
Right, unless your personal credit card you designate a personal credit card just for business expenses.
Yeah, and that's not uncommon because sometimes in your first couple of years it can be hard to get a corporate credit card. So you can take a card that's under your personal name and use that like it's a business card, but treat it as a business card and use that 99% of the time for business expenses and don't go back and forth just to get some extra points here and there, because it'll just make your bookkeeping a lot more difficult and a lot messier.
Yeah, and I would say that's a little bit more of an advanced topic in the past. Again, I think I've tried to cover that. But I think if that's a situation that you find yourself in, you might want to reach out to us, and maybe we'll put out some more materials regarding that, on how to deal with that. So yeah, your invoice is created. And so now you're going to come into your bank feed. And so the bank feed right here, it's important to understand that when the bank feed is right here, it's a listing of all of your transactions. These are not yet in QuickBooks. So these do not show up on your reports. The only place that you're going to find these right now when they're in the bank feed is in the bank feed. If I were to run a report, none of these transactions would be on them. And that's just something to highlight, because a lot of people get into QuickBooks Online, and sometimes it's a little bit confusing. Like, this is where it's happening, these are where the transactions are, and this is where they stay. So what you're going to want to do with your invoices is when your deposits come into your bank feed, into the receive column, is you're going to want to match your income to the invoices that you created. And so in this case, QuickBooks Online, it's smart enough to figure out that this invoice probably matches right here. And so you just want to verify that, yes, this is the invoice that belongs to this deposit right here. And if it was not, you could click find other matches. In this case, you would hit match. Now, if for some reason you were not to do the invoice, you decided you did not want to do invoicing in QuickBooks Online, maybe your contract requires you to invoice in a third party, and you feel like it would be duplication of work to use the invoicing in QuickBooks, you can also enter your contract revenue straight from the bank feed. And so what you would do is on this received column, you can click anywhere on this line, it's going to expand the field, and you can enter your customer right here. And your category would be contract revenue. Your tax, whether you're on quick method or long method, would be HST on sales, and you would add it, and that would add it to the income section on your profit and loss. I'm just going to go over here to accounts and settings real quick. I had it previously, for a previous demo, had a closing date. What happens on the closing date is it prevents you from entering transactions, or provides you a warning for entering transactions prior to the closing date, which is really good after your first fiscal year end. You do want to come in here and put the closing date once all of your transactions are entered, to just prevent you from making any changes. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it off.
That's really important, because the last thing you want to do is go and update information in a year that we've already filed a tax return for, because your books are a running total. You have a balance sheet which has an opening and closing balance. If you go and change something in a previous year, it's going to mess up your balance sheet, and then you're going to have a heck of a time with the accounting team, because your balance sheet won't match the balance sheet that was filed with the CRA. So you do not want to be changing anything for a tax return that you have already filed. If you come into a situation where you need to make a change to a year that's already been filed, you should be speaking with Jennifer or someone from our team to figure out exactly how to do that.
Yeah, so once you've submitted your reports to us for your year end, come in here and set that closing date for your fiscal year end. Just prevents you from doing that. Okay, so that deals with the income, and to kind of just show you how fast you can kind of go through this, if you've got a lot of time to you've got multiple transactions to catch up, is you can actually just bulk select these right here, update, and you can update all of these at the same time. So I'm just going to go ahead and add all of these at once. And we'll get into rules in just a minute, but I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of those transactions right there. So the next type of transaction that you're going to deal with in these bank feeds are going to be transfers between the accounts. So it's either going to be a transfer between your checking and savings accounts, or there's going to be transfers between the credit card and the checking account. So,
i.e. a payment.
What was that?
For example, a payment.
Yes, for example, a payment. So you made a payment from your checking account to your credit card account, and you want to account for that. And let me see, I think they're on the next page. They are. So right here on the credit card account, any payments to the credit card are going to show up in the receive column. In addition, any items that you ever return on your credit card, so you buy something on Amazon, you return it, when it comes back to the credit card, it's going to show up in the receive column. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to, on these payments, you're going to want to make a You can actually now record it as a credit card payment. QuickBooks Online has tried to kind of change the terminology to make this easier for everybody. So you can record a credit card payment and you're going to say the bank account that you paid the credit card from. So if you paid it from your corporate checking account, it would come from right here, your checking account. There are instances where you may have paid your credit card from your personal funds and not from your corporate account. In that case, you can put that the credit card payment came from director's advances. We didn't really touch on director's advances. Andrew's definitely mentioned it. But director's advances is essentially just a record. It's like a bank account, but it's a record of any transactions that money you've either contributed to the corporation or you withdrawn from the corporation. So if you're paying a corporate card from personal funds, it's as if you contributed those funds to the corporation, and then you would add it. So you would just do that with all of these. And actually what I recommend, and one of the great benefits of QuickBooks Online is to be able to create these rules to deal with these transactions the same way every single time, and you're not left with trying to remember. So what you can do is you can say, okay, I'm going to record this as a credit card payment. Let me do this one. Record as a credit card payment. I always pay my credit card from my checking account. I'm going to create a rule so that every time it deals with it the same. So when you create a rule, it brings up this side. You just want to rename your rule. I usually name it the bank description, but you could, name the rule credit card payment. You're going to say this actually belongs to the credit card. When money is received into the credit card, it is a transfer from the RBC checking account. You can actually hit auto add. If you hit auto add, that means you'll never see this transaction you're being paid ever again. Every time it comes in, QuickBooks will automatically know to add it, and they'll add it directly. For this case, I'm just going to leave auto add off. Save. So once that's done, you'll see that these transactions came up with rule applied. And so then you can just hit transfer. And again, you can always block bulk select and then hit accept, and it will accept all of these. So a lot of times on these transfers, if I'm dealing with it the same way, I might use auto add because I never want to have to look at it, and it will just deal with it. Accept.
Another quick tip is you can do shift select and control select to select the top and bottom of a list if you have like pages or like a long page of transactions.
Definitely. And then over here on the checking side, what's going to happen? So I still struggle a little bit to explain this fully. So Andrew, feel free to chime in. What happens when you pay the credit card or when you're dealing with transfers in between accounts is that you're going to enter the transfer from one account and you have to match it on the other side of that, like on this account. So the credit card payments. It's
a troublesome thing. They're getting better at it. We used to actually even use like a holding or a temporary account and move it in there. So we had a clearing account that we could go through. It's gotten to the point where we don't need to use the clearing account as much, but you do need to make sure that you record both sides of the transaction, because basically it said, okay, you've said I paid over here, but you have to then go over to wherever you said you paid it from and confirm when the payment goes out. And this is meant because maybe there's a delay in timing between when the payment was sent and when it was received.
Right. So you'll see right here. So it wants to match it. It happened on in the credit card. It was 8/29. On this side, it was 8/30. So what you do on these ones is that you match them to the transaction versus adding them as new. So you don't want to go here and categorize this. You want to find the match and have it match. And it's just saying that these transactions already happened in this account and we're just confirming. And so you would go through all of these and hit match. So you'll see within a few minutes, all of this is dealt with, right? We're down to 3 transactions in the checking and a few in the credit card. So one of the transactions that I wanted to touch on in the checking account is your tax payments. When you make tax payments to the CRA, you're going to actually categorize this. Actually, we have a new account set up on our new chart of accounts. I don't think it's in here, but I actually have on the new chart of accounts, we actually have where it says like tax payments. And so the category would be tax payments. And then there's subcategories for whether it's a federal corporate tax payment, a GST payment, or a payroll tax payment. Is those ones, and then the credit card. So let's get to the expenses. So the expenses, again, you could sort by any of these fields in the, this is just like kind of like an Excel table, and you can sort by date, you can sort by description. Whenever I'm coming in here to update the bank feeds, on a regular basis, sort by description, I think is the easiest because you can actually just deal with these transactions all at once. In this case, there was a rule set up. So there's a rule to say when CPA4IT, categorize it as accounting fees. If you ever need to edit the rule, you can just click where it says rule applied right here. It will bring up the rule and you can edit it. And you can just add those. So let me just create a few more rules for you here. So like this one, you go here all the time. You're going to say, okay, this category is business promotion. Quick method. You can fill out the payee if you would like.
And the one thing to note, you can see it's trying to classify it for you, but it's not doing a perfect job. Like for example, coffee tree roaster, it's trying to put it under travel, meals while traveling. Which is probably not the case. So it's trying to do it. And as it gets used to you, those suggestions will get better over time because it is artificial intelligence driven. So it's learning from your own behavior as well as its entire database of users. But it's got to get used to you and your specific chart of accounts. And it will get better. The best thing in the world is to use the rules. And then if you don't have, if it doesn't make sense to have a rule because you're only doing it one off, you just want to make sure, look at the suggested classification, make sure it's correct before you add it and reclassify it.
Yeah, and as far as the classification goes as well, you may say, well, I don't know, I don't know where do I classify Starbucks, right? And you're not sure. In our firm, we always classify it to business promotion. We also, again, in the free resources, we have under bookkeeping tools and guides, we have this expense PDF, and it shows all of the categories that you have in the chart of accounts and QuickBooks Online. It lists it out in detail and the types of things that you should include in each category. So you can always refer to this expense PDF if you're not sure where a transaction goes, as examples of the types of things that should go in each category. One of the things that may happen sometimes with transactions is you may go to, say, Shoppers Drug Mart, and a portion of this transaction is a personal and a portion of the transaction belongs to the business. In that case, in QuickBooks Online, you click, like again, whenever you want to add detail to this, you just click on the line. You can actually do a split. And so when you do a split, you're going to record a portion of the transaction into two different categories. So I would record, if you have if it's personal in nature, you would put it to director's advances and just, you might say personal items in the description. And you would say, okay, $10 of this transaction was personal in nature. The other amount was office supplies. And you can split out your transactions that way. Right there. Okay. So that's the bank feed. I'll just, again, you can go through this really quickly, set up your rules. The rules are really the best way. Are there any questions related to the rules? Sometimes you have to play with them a little bit. So QuickBooks Online will automatically bring in what they think needs to be the text for the rule. So like right here, it says Muddy Duck Restaurant. Sometimes when the bank descriptions come in, it doesn't always come in exactly like that. So you might just want to say, when it says restaurant, code it to business promotion.
Yeah, like for example, No Frills, it always has the chain, and then it says No Frills, like Bob and Doug's No Frills, or Mary's No Frills, because they're independently owned and they're sort of a franchise model. So what you want to do is pare it down from the full name to just includes No Frills type of thing.
Right. So you can always edit. You can always edit the description on that, on right here, on the I guess the conditions for the rule in that. So we're quickly getting down to the hour. So I do quickly want to touch on the reports. I think
Before you do that, you want to just show them where the difference where you can see the recognized transactions. I think that's something that I personally love to look at. So I can come in and quickly see all the transactions that have already been recognized. Because 9 times out of 10, those are pretty good. Like we have 26 recognized transactions right now, and we can probably look at those, have a quick scroll down the page, and if they're correct, you just highlight them all and hit accept. So if those were all right, she just, tick the first one, hit accept, and there's 26 transactions processed in a minute. And that's the level of automation that you can do with QuickBooks, that your bookkeeping, should take you about the time it takes to drink a cup of coffee, if you've set it up properly.
Definitely. Yeah. So you can filter right here by dates, or like you said, right out, like Andrew said, all transactions are recognized or matched. Like another one, I think I didn't even realize that was in there. There's one that's matched, which is really cool too. So you could just quickly accept all the ones that match.
I think that's new, isn't it? They always pop new little bonuses in for us.
Yeah, like these are all kind of new. I hadn't looked at that recently, so that's kind of fun. That's just, it makes it even faster to deal with these transactions in here. And you can even kind of pretend it's a game, right? Like, just let's get down to 0, because when you're all done, which is I love, like I'm not going to care about the category, but when we're all done, you're going to accept, and it's going to have this green check mark, and you're done, right? And that's great. And I guess one thing too, I forgot, is if you feel like you made a mistake on a transaction and you were like, wait, I didn't mean to classify it there. My fingers were, too fast this morning. What happens is once they're from the review, they go into this categorize tab. You can always undo it. So if you see a transaction, you can either come right here, you can edit it right here actually, and you can change the category, or you can come to right here, undo, and it's going to put it back for review, and then you can redo the transaction.
Right. And one thing I will touch base on briefly, which we're not going to be able to go into, I don't think, in the time we have left, is you notice that the bank balance and the balance in QuickBooks are different. We're using a demo account. Normally, when you're done everything, they should line up. And then there's a reconciliation process that you go to make sure that the transactions in your QuickBooks match what's in your bank. Your opening and closing balances are there. So you just basically put in your closing balance and your end date, and then it goes through. So she's going to actually, we're going to have time. This is amazing. So it shows you that there's a difference here of $10.50, and it lists all the transactions that it recognized and any other open transactions that maybe you might have missed. So definitely more of an advanced technique, but it's something important to do. We'll probably put out some sessions on that. And I know there's some great YouTube videos. I do a podcast every Friday night. And my co-host was a guy named Hector Garcia, who's the #1 QuickBooks YouTuber out there. So if you're ever looking for training videos on how to do anything in QuickBooks, I encourage you to, go to YouTube, search Hector Garcia, and, whatever you're trying to do, reconcile a bank account, whatever it is you're trying to do, there's great tips on how to do that.
Yeah, and if you're on top of reconciling the account, it literally should take you just as fast as I did it, right? Yeah. Like, so, and if you're off and you're really stuck and you need us to jump in and help you reconcile the account the first time, we're more than happy to do that, because most often, once it's reconciled one time right, after that, it's like a matter of minutes.
Yeah, and this is something we do expect to be done before you hand in the file to us.
Yeah, and what's great is if you get the QuickBooks Online Pro account from us now, we don't have this in the demo account, but QuickBooks Online will actually pull in your PDF bank statement, and it will say view statements, and you'll be able to pull up that statement, get the ending balance, get the ending date right here, all on the same screen. Yeah, it's one of my favorite features now, and that just came out recently. So that's there. So quickly, I'll just jump into reports super fast, because reports, you have your report center over here. QuickBooks by default just has these 3 kind of highlighted, but you can favorite any report. If you favorite a report, it comes up here into your favorites. The two reports that I highly recommend you review on a regular basis is your profit and loss report and your balance sheet report. So I'm just going to go ahead and do all dates. You can filter right here on all dates. You can also compare, if you have multiple years in here, you can compare year over year, how you're doing, or month over month, how the business revenue and expenses are coming in. So in the profit and loss report, you can come in here, see where everything's been categorized. You can always drill down on the category and see the specific transactions that have been allocated to that category.
And this reporting is awesome. I mean, like, for example, the wage subsidy, when people had to figure out whether they qualified for the wage subsidy, Jennifer was like, within like a couple of clicks, was able to generate a report that could show people how they compared month over month, and the percentage difference, which is what was the criteria for the wage subsidy. So there you go. You can now quickly see month over month, what the difference is in revenue, to see if you would qualify for the wage subsidy in an instant, matter of 2 or 3 clicks, and you're there.
Right. And you're never probably going to break anything in QuickBooks Online. So don't be afraid to come in here and just kind of dive into the reports, drill down into things, look at the customization, things that you can customize. You can filter to look at specific accounts. So don't be hesitant to get in here and to really look at things.
And if you are hesitant, go purchase a license of Rewind, which QuickBooks Online, one of the great things, we're not touching on that today, is all the third-party integrations that it has. Rewind is a backup software that allows you to effectively rewind. So if you made a mistake and you want to go back and undo it, Rewind is a great little tool for being able to go back to a moment in time.
Yeah, and there's also a full audit log right here, audit log, and you can always view any transactions that have been deleted, voided, modified, or changed. With the report center, like, you're not going to really ever break anything, right?
Yeah, definitely not in the reports. More as you're processing transactions.
Right. Yeah. Like, or if you drill down into a transaction, I mean, but it's going to give you a warning.
Yeah. Yeah. And their QuickBooks, it's an amazing tool. It really is making bookkeeping easy, but it's not to say that you cannot mess it up.
Right.
So I guess, in the last few minutes, we've got about 6 minutes left here. One of the big questions I have is what do you see as the most common mistakes people make in QuickBooks, Jennifer?
So yeah, it would be handling the transfers. So what happens is they enter the transfer from the credit card to the banking to the checking account, and then instead of matching, they also enter it from the checking account to the credit card, and so it kind of gets duplicated. So that's a big mistake to just kind of be aware of, is to make sure that you're always matching it in one of the accounts and you're not entering it from both.
Yeah.
And the second mistake would be invoices. So what happens in the banking, they've created their invoices in QuickBooks Online, and instead of right here, let's see if I can find that one quickly. Right here, instead of matching it to an invoice, this deposit, instead of matching it to an invoice that has already been created in QuickBooks, they go to right here and they categorize it as new income instead of matching it.
Yeah.
And this is a good reason to review your reports, because you'll if you're looking at your reports, you'll see that this mistake was made, because you'll drill into your contract revenue and you'll say, why was it doubled?
Yep.
And then you'll look and you'll say, well, why do I have $237,000? And you'll see one came in from the checking and one came in through accounts receivable.
Yeah, that's a big one. And another one, I see sort of the same thing on the expense side. We've talked about processing the expenses from the debit card, but there's an expenses tab there where people can enter expenses manually. And if you're using something like a Receipt Bank or a HubDoc, one of those tools that OCRs your transactions and brings it in, they're going to come in here on the expense side. And if you don't match it up, if you're coding it from the bank instead of matching it, then you're going to run into the same issue. You're going to have these duplicates, and you're going to have a big, huge accounts payable, because you're going to have all these expenses that haven't been paid. So, the expenses, there's sort of a quick and dirty way to do your bookkeeping, which is to do everything from your bank statement and your credit card through the bank feed, which is excellent. I mean, in an ideal world, you're going to have a, supporting image, like proper, good, clean bookkeeping. Every single transaction has an actual image in QuickBooks Online connected to it. And if you were using something like Receipt Bank, it will do that for you, but you've got to make sure that you're then, it's what it's going to do if you're using something like Receipt Bank or HubDoc, is it's going to put that transaction into expenses. And you're going to have to make sure when you come into the bank that you match that expense to the bank transaction. So using one of those tools like Receipt Bank or HubDoc, it does make it a little bit more work on the bookkeeping side, but gives you what we call an audit-proof set of books, which is a much, much, much better process. It is not required. And one of the things that clients do, and I do see a Q&A, so we'll come to that in just one second. What I do see clients do is they'll use QuickBooks Online and do all their bookkeeping from their bank statement, and they'll keep Receipt Bank, which we give to all of our clients for free, as a tool to just keep a permanent record of the actual document that they can go and search through later, but they won't connect Receipt Bank to QuickBooks, so they don't have to worry about matching the transactions. So it's fine to keep those as two disparate systems, two completely separate systems. Just remember that they're not then going to be linked. And so if you need to find an expense that's on a QuickBooks transaction, you'll have to go and look up the amount and the vendor, and then go into Receipt Bank and search for that amount. So on that note, we do have a question, which is, do you recommend Receipt Bank over HubDoc? And what I would say is we're probably recommending Receipt Bank over HubDoc right now for the sheer point of we have a bulk license, which means that you are, if you're a client of ours, you're getting Receipt Bank completely free of charge. Whereas HubDoc, unless you're on a zero package with us, you're going to have to pay extra for that account. Now, HubDoc is doing some special pricing with Xero, who has purchased HubDoc, where you can get that rolled in. They both do fundamentally the same things. And it's sort of the, do you prefer QuickBooks over Xero? Both are great applications. And my analogy is often, and I tell it to people all the time, Mac versus PC. And, you know, QuickBooks and Receipt Bank are definitely the PCs of the world. They have much larger market share. They're maybe not as sexy, but they are also a fair bit cheaper, which is generally speaking why we use the tools. From a functionality standpoint, both tools are going to deliver the same end result. It just may be in user experience and usability. So that's a lot of personal preference. Would you rather use a Mac, or would you rather use a PC? They can both create a spreadsheet. They can both create a Word document. They can both access the internet. You know, maybe one's a little sexier and easier to use. Maybe one's a little better with videos and video editing, but they can both do video and video editing, right? So hopefully that answers your question. I mean, is there anything else, Jennifer, that you think we should touch on before we wrap up? Oh, we got one more. Get him in. Oh, that answer, he's just saying he answered his question. Okay, excellent. Anything else that you wanted to touch on, Jennifer, or should we wrap up?
I think we should wrap up. I think that's it. That's just I think this is a very quick interview, overview of QuickBooks Online. There's definitely tons more that we could dive in. I could talk to you about it for the next 6 hours if you wanted. But it definitely should be enough to get you guys started. And again, you can always reach out to us if you have questions or run into issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's certification you can do. My one tip would be, if you're going to be using QuickBooks, go and get certified. I mean, it's great free training from QuickBooks. So why not go and get certified, get that free training, and invest the time, because, you know, if you're in business, this is a really important aspect of something that you're going to need to do for as long as you're in business, and figuring out how to use the tools and optimize it will more than pay for itself in the time that you save in getting your books right. So invest the time up front, so you're not spending the time every year, not doing your bookkeeping and your accounting in the most optimized way. So on that note, thank you very much, Jennifer. This was a great session. I hopefully didn't interrupt you too much. I'm so pleased that no storms today. We've got great internet connection.
Great weather.
Things went swimmingly. You did an amazing job, and we do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to teach everyone the pros and cons and tips and tricks of using QuickBooks Online.
Yeah, it's fun.
So with that, we'll see you guys next month for our next webinar. We've always got new ones coming. If you don't know what's up, go check CPA4IT.ca and see what's on our events page. We've got 2 or 3 webinars per month, and they're always fun to come out and check at a great time. great place to get your questions answered free of charge. So bye for now, everybody. We'll see you
Bye.
next month.